The first full-length issue with Wolverine.
No joke.
Not Sheehan.
Like chili and mustard. And that bad boy would not be damaged. I wish that we had the sales numbers on that to see how many of those sold, because that
Probably like 12.
Dude, I thought you were someone else.
Liefeld's first appearance. I had a feeling that was either the case or you were just hammered or something.
they send me these fat boy omnibuses
Yeah, it'd be better to be hammered.
to a high rise in the YouTube sky.
Logged in my various issues of the things that I got over at Out of Price on Wednesday, or out of print rather. That was nice.
Farted.
Wow. Sheehan Comics coupon code. Very nice.
Yeah. No joke. See, but at least you kind of know how to fix that stuff. Imagine being a jabroni like me who just like presses the off button. It's like, why isn't this working? For like the Jeffersons. And I was just completely flabbergasted. I was like beyond flabbergasted. I'm following the directions. What is wrong?
I know nothing about this. So what was wrong?
I actually had to turn it up higher. It's very delicate, right? And you're doing the whole procedure, so you have to keep stirring. Like you have to keep stirring. You can't stop stirring, because once you stop stirring, it sticks to the bottom. So it just completely threw me like off and just drove me insane. So I'm driven absolutely mad. And so sure enough, there was another option I had to go into, and I had to turn on the HDR 4K element. You know, if you add garlic, it should taste like garlic. So,
if you want to taste like garlic, you have to turn the garlic switch on.
Yeah, and
it's in there, but if you want to taste it, you got to hit the garlic on.
Yes, and press it 2 times.
Oh, so that is pretty ridiculous.
Because you called.
That is what like makes me smoke.
Nonsense.
Busy work. I think we're gonna have a really excellent episode here.
No joke. So we want to thank the fine folks at Organic Price Books, which Scott knows of, and Scott knows that I have an affinity and like a love affair of all things Organic Price Books.
You should be on their board by now.
Oh, I know, right? No. When I email JP, I'm like, hey man, check my orders. I got like 62 orders. No joke, because like they send me these fat boy omnibuses, but Organic Price Books. Use Sheehan Comics, that's SHEEHAN Comics in capital letters. You get $2 off your purchase. And it also goes to help us and shows, it shows them that people are actually digging what we're given. And I got to tell you,
that's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Isn't it? And then as we're alluding to, with Organic Price Books, they actually, and Scott can attest to this, you get a $125 book for like $80. You get a $150 book for like $95.
I have never seen packaging better than what they do.
I agree with you.
I mean, unless you have like some kind of a rabid doomsday delivery person, your book is not going to be damaged.
And fart too, like chili too. Like chili and mustard. And that bad boy would not be damaged. You would see no marks, nothing.
And it wouldn't even smell.
Compression. It wouldn't smell because it's fantastic. Sheehan Comics, all one word. The comics is all capital. Sheehan Comics. Save yourself $2. Yes,
we're like
Sheehan
Comics. This is
great. We are, and we had O'Connell on the previous episode. We're moving on up. We're like the Jeffersons
to a high rise in the sky.
To a high rise in the YouTube sky.
While we're on that train of thought, is there anything that's coming out or is out like recently that you want to talk about?
At Organic Price Books, another thing, just if you pay with Shop Pay, you could order like 4 or 5 books and you're paying it off. It's 4 payments every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's no interest on it. So like Organic participates in that.
Thanks for sharing that. Wow. Sheehan Comics coupon code. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Like this. Ready? There we go. Hey!
You have been watching some of the initial episodes of Rings of Power.
Yes. Number one, I would tell you at least the first 3 episodes that I've seen, I can't really say it's woke. Galadriel, who is the main Who, I mean, just like you know, like the other Lord of the Rings movies or The Hobbit, there's various subplots going on in the
Sure,
show, right?
sure.
So she's obviously like everything kind of like she's doing that. Her story arc is the heavy lifting of
Okay.
the show.
All
Okay.
right. Yeah.
But she's very fierce and like, you know, she's the leader of the Northern Army or this or that, you know, and as the story is going on, I find it interesting. I can't say, you know, after 3 episodes, it's the best thing in the whole wide world, or it overly reminds me of, you know, it gives me that jazz and joy and hooked me like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But it is interesting. It's worth a watch, you know,
Okay.
and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful production. It's a beautiful thing to look at.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to watch it. I think there's 8 episodes. I'm going to keep watching it
Yeah.
until, you know, either
See where it
something
goes.
happens or really
Yeah.
right that it either really turns me off and I'm like, oh, this is boring,
Yeah.
or oh, surprise, there's the woke in the show. You know, watching it on my big TV with the surround sound is really,
Good. Good.
you know, it's engulfing. It's completely different than the movies, like the whole vibe to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, it's got the dwarves and the elves and you know this and that going on.
The last thing that I read a day or two ago was apparently the response to the Rings of Power has been positive. So HBO, or is it HBO? No, Amazon. Amazon, right?
Amazon has
Yeah,
that has
Amazon
Rings of Power.
is all in on this new Blade Runner series too. So like
Yeah, yeah.
they're jazzed because it's like, oh, we got something. So now they're trying to jump on the Blade Runner thing, which, you know, there's not a lot to be said so far. The good news from what I saw is that Ridley is executive producer. Hopefully he's got enough say and is willing to like keep the bar high and that it's quality. So we'll see. But there, you know, that could be interesting. Yeah, it's hard to say. And you know, I mean, he's getting up there too. So I mean, his energy level, you know, he isn't going to be Robbie Liefeld, you know.
No, you guys, you guys, you guys, you guys.
And it was interesting, the whole, you know, it just reminds you business is business at the end of the day. Listening to the story with Shooter in DC and just the animosity and the power plays that were going on there. It just because it's comics doesn't mean everything's going to be wonderful and like,
You know, unicorn farts.
and rainbows. So I thought, and again, like I've said to you before, it's interesting. Robbie's had nothing but generally positive words for Jim Shooter, as I recall.
Yes,
And I think he
yes.
said that Jim Shooter is his favorite editor when he's worked for Marvel. But then the story that I was, you know, hearing today was that Shooter was acting poorly and just kind of like being vindictive, I guess, for lack of a better word, because he gotten spurned earlier on. And then later on, when they tried to do these crossover things, he was just like, nope, nope, not doing it. Don't want to hear it. Not going to have the work. You know, I'm just not going to accept it. And so it's just interesting. I have a lot of respect for Liefeld's ability to compartmentalize things, I guess, for lack of a better word. He chunks it down to a particular event, and he's like, well, in this particular scenario, this person was bad or good. And then, you know, he'll tell a different story in some episodes later, and he's like, oh, I love this guy. He's like, great, you know?
Huh.
Yeah. He's like, and he was like, well, Shooter, no, you did not do your job. You should have released those Paris pages. That felt a little bit pirate-ish to me.
Robbie,
It's gonna lose. I mean, he said up front, it's gonna lose value. But I sold it because I emotionally wasn't attached anymore. Oh, that was why you sold it?
only because of that. Let's roll the dice, see what happens.
Well, I have a big pile of media here. Do you want to see some media?
I do.
I'll start off with the Kirby cover. These came from
In
out
East Greenbush, New York.
Yes, East Greenbush. John, you're awesome. I don't want to be a Jim Shooter. I mentioned about
Jimmy. Yeah.
the Sean O'Connell. So if you haven't seen
Oh,
the
you did?
O'Connell interview, you need to see
That was a
episode
good
5.
time.
It was.
That was a good time.
It
I
was.
really enjoyed it.
So this is one of the things that I got 2 days ago.
Hey,
And I just thought, and of course, not have your finger over John Byrne. And it doesn't give the credits, but I personally would have to say that's got to be Terry Austin who inked that. That's just such,
it's beautiful.
isn't it? Very
Yeah, it really
powerful,
is.
classic.
Yes, very and clean and crisp. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Alpha
Yeah, it's
Flight
really
number
cool.
8, Byrne and Austin, and then the follow up is definitely later. This is Artie and
Artie,
Kubert, Artie and
Artie,
Kubert.
Artie and Gilbert. Gee. Oh, that's cool. That almost looks like a '90s cover, dude.
Yeah, well,
Seriously,
this
that's
is
an '80s cover?
no, this one's later. So this would have
Oh,
been.
I was gonna say.
So remember,
Looks like
okay, Onslaught, and I found
yes,
this. Okay, come on,
yes.
camera, come on. There we go. So that's the cover of the trade paperback, and this was the original, which
Oh
was
wow,
cool that I found
that's a
both of
trade
them.
paperback.
This is the whole deal.
Oh wow, cool.
This is what is going for like $130 now. There's only 2 of them as of yesterday on eBay. And I found that first, and then as I was digging through the random boxes, which is what's fun about out of print, is he's got all the boxes on the table, stuff that he's gone through and he's priced, and then underneath he's just got loads, and he doesn't care if you just like go through them, and he'll let you pull them out, and he'll tell you if you put them up on the desk, which I did, because I had a stack like, I got 3/4 of a short box yesterday. So I just happened to be digging through one of the boxes under the table,
That's so neat.
and I was like, oh, and not that it doesn't really have any value per se. I think I paid $1 for it, but it was just fun to find it. But he'll go through and he'll stack them up, and he's like, okay, if this is cool with you, this pile is $1 pile. This pile's $1.25. This is $1.50. This is 2. And he's like, I have to charge $5 for these 2. And it was like X-Men 200 and 205. And I'm like, okay, we could do that. I'm okay with that.
I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. All right.
I suppose.
So you should know about this.
Mm. Yes, yes.
Here,
I think I
hold on.
read that one.
Well, let's see if this helps at all. It's tough with the reflective.
There we go.
So that's
Fight,
Superman, Man of
yeah.
Steel 30. And
That's after you came back from the dead, I think.
yeah, and
Do you have long hair?
that's the
Lobo.
newsstand. That's the newsstand.
Wow.
Okay. So but now this is the one also, Man of Steel 30.
And there's the mighty triangle under your finger.
Right. Both of them
There we
have the
go.
triangle. So but this one's fun. Cellophane bag. So Superman and Lobo, is that what he is? Yeah.
Yes, Lobo. Yeah.
They're printed on the bag, and it's a first ever do-it-yourself cover. Pick your own fight. On the back side is a sheet in the cellophane bag of color forms, and it's got a whole like 40 different little things, and you would stick them on the cover and make your own battle on this layout. And so that was like the alternative, a variant cover, which was fun.
That's way cool.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Okay. So this was another random pickup that I got just because it was a New Mutants. As you know, I've been reading on Hoopla, the New Mutants. And so I picked it up, didn't know. And then later when I got home, so this is annual number 5, 1989. Liefeld's first appearance doing the
Robbie?
Yeah. His first time doing the inking of a New Mutants issue. So
Robbie?
that was Robbie.
Fun.
This is later. Gorgeous. Sitting here in the dark and I can't see. I think this might be Silvestri. Yes, this is Silvestri. Have you heard of this? It's Phoenix War Song. It's a 5.
Well, it's beautiful.
It is
Beautiful art.
A 5-book and I got the whole thing. He had the whole thing, and this is obviously much later. I mean, the cover is $2.99.
Back then, that was a big deal, $2.99.
It's really pretty covers, and he's trying to wipe out the mutants. And so this is a Liefeld, and it was called, the whole thing was kind of like, Man of Steel. Well, Marvel was doing extinction agenda.
Okay. And
Yeah.
there's Cable.
Yeah. And so it was a mashup between X Factor, X-Men, New Mutants. And it would, like your Superman thing with a triangle, it moved between the multiple different covers.
Titles, cool.
And this was a early one. So Warlock here, he dies in that one, or seemingly dies.
Robbie.
And Robbie was on it. This was fun because it was Star Wars early.
Wow, that's neat.
With Vader.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that.
Very rarely.
And the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. Marvel was pinned down. No Luke Skywalker and Vader in the same issue. That was against the rules. A nice early X-Men Kitty Pryde, and kind of a powerful cover for the time. This probably would have been late 70s, 50-cent cover. It's a Cockrum cover. So that's like a nice classic, uncanny early Cockrum cover. And then here's a nice gimmick.
Oh, gimme gimmick.
Yeah. So Magnus is one of the ones that I love.
Oh, man.
Robot fighter.
Yeah.
Robot fighter.
What is it? Is it a number one?
No. Well, actually, no. It's a 20. It's much later. I grabbed it because it was Magnus and it was gimmick, but it was $2.95. So I don't know, when would that be? 2000, late 90s. I'm very excited about this because we've heard about this ad nauseum on Robservations.
It's like
Avengers.
I think I had that one.
And actually, this is later Liefeld. It's really good. He was really.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. So it's November of '96, issue 1.
That's the one where Todd, when remember he told the story they were at the comic convention. But we're here talking about Image. We are not talking about Marvel. Image.
Do you remember in the original Men in Black? And
the cockroach guy. Yeah.
Yes. And it sounds pretty much like that.
We are not talking about Marvel. We are talking about Image.
And there's like cockroaches falling out of his
Yes. And his face is like tucked in.
Exactly. Yeah. The guy's stuck to the roof and like fiddle is coming down. I'll be done with X-Men stuff here now. But this one was X-Men 3.
Is that a Jim Lee cover? Or?
Yeah.
I could tell. I guess Lee is like Psylocke looks very like the lines are just scratchy, like Lee back then.
I think you might be.
Oh yeah.
Look, dude. I think I have all of them now, don't I? I don't have the other one with me, but I think I have all the colors. Finally,
Superboy. You got the Eradicator and the blue one. Was the blue one the Cyborg Superman, or
the Man of Tomorrow is back? Jurgens in breeding.
Yeah, Cyborg Superman. All right. Oh my God, you totally just touched my heart. Those things, man. I remember buying them from. If you check out our first episode and hear me like just go goo goo gaga about these things, and Cardboard Sports. I remember right now in my brain. I'm walking down the sidewalk, and the sun was shining, but there was shade on me from the building I'm walking next to, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, is it Cyborg Superman? Is it Superboy? Because he's a clone mixed with Lex Luthor's DNA and Superman's DNA. But I thought it was the green one, the Eradicator. Scott, I kid you not, I drew pictures out of that green one for a year. Just the same pictures over and over, because I really thought that was Superman, because he looks like Superman just with the shades and like the energy, like yellow blackish type of thing. Yes, the Eradicator. I thought that was him. I'm like, it's got to be him. And then it was like, oh, did you hear about the Superman in the black suit? And I'm like, the what? And then that's when everything came together.
Well, so explain to me, 'cause this is something that I didn't understand or wasn't aware of. And as I was going through these now, I didn't realize that with the triangles, they reset with the year, because
Yes,
I didn't know that. I thought they were
yes,
continuous. So, because
yeah.
some of them like the green one is 1293, the blue one is 1493. But then I don't know that I have it handy here. I don't. But there was another one that didn't have a fancy cover. It was just, you know, newsstand regular cover, and it was like 95 number one. And so I didn't
Mhm.
realize they reset with the years. I thought it would be continuous. So here's the brown or bronze or whatever they call it.
Dude, he
And
was so cool back in the day. That's like so 90s too.
yeah, and they all have the posters in them. This
Yes,
was I dug these out of a box underneath the table, so I'm like
so
really starting to
cool.
flesh that out. How long did they do that?
They did the triangle thing for a while in mid to late 90s, but if you're looking for the triangle, but as far as the Return of Superman, that's where it's at. That's the cat's meow for me, or it was the cat's meow. That's why I got the omnibus, the Death and Return, where it's got the death, the funeral for a friend, and the whole, right there, the reign of the Superman. It's got the whole thing.
And if you're wondering why our background is Hulk 181, that leads into our random comic event of this episode.
Dun,
So
dun, dun,
while
dun.
I was going through and finding these things that we've just shared, I had just come into the shop. So I'm up front. He's got a table up front always where it's kind of like he's got a sign that says recent acquisitions. Haven't gone through them, but feel free to go through them and pick out what you want. And it's right up by the front door. So I had been there for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden these three little old ladies or four little old ladies come in the door, and I'm like, that's kind of odd, but whatever. And so they immediately come in, they go over to the counter. His counter is up front too. And they're like, we're from the local library. And I'm like, oh, they're like, pumping for donations or something, right? And so I'm like, well, this would be interesting to see how he's going to deal with this. And so they're like, well, we've got a donation recently. We're wondering if you could help us to value it. And he's kind of like, okay, not really sure what's going to happen. So I don't know. She had it covered. She pulls it out, and they're standing over here, and they're kind of like their backs are to me, and I'm facing the other way, but I'm kind of like looking over, and I'm like, is this going to be something cool or what? And they pull it out and they hold it
And
up.
that's when the blinding light was like,
They hand it to him, and I just see the background, and I could just see the back cover. It was in like one of those those heavy Mylar plastic, not with a board, just
not with a board. That's a sin for that one.
yeah, it was just in one of those thick plastic things. So I could tell it was like a 70s issue. And he looks at it and he's like, and there was another kid who is a regular of his that he knew, because as soon as he walked in a little bit earlier, he's like, hey, Chris. And Chris was digging through stuff, and he holds it up to Chris, and Chris is like, oh, and I'm like, oh, this has got to be something.
Nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like all in. I turn around, I'm like watching. I'm like, what is it? So it was Hulk 181, which, for those of you who don't know what that is, which I did not, is the first full length issue with Wolverine from 1974. And he's got the yellow suit, and it's kind of semi like we saw him a little later in the X-Men, but his ears are much shorter. He doesn't have the big tall, on the cover. And immediately, and they're like, well, do you think this has any value? And John looks at it and he's like, well, it probably is worth upwards of $3,000. And they were like, oh, so he carefully slides it out, and he's telling them the whole thing about it. And he said, the reason, that this is valuable is not about the Hulk per se, but it's because it's the first full length appearance of Wolverine, who is one of the most popular characters in the Marvel universe at this point.
It's the guy in yellow, Grandma.
Yeah, the guy in yellow. I mean, they had no clue. And so he said, all right, so the first thing we need, he said, first of all, It looks very bright. The pages are bright. Staples are good. The spine doesn't have, it ticks. I think he said spine ticks, whatever. He said it's very clean. And he's got a CGC copy on the wall, his own personal.
That's
He's got
awesome.
one. He's got one on the wall. Only it's like 3.5, and this is way better than his. His has like losses on the paper, and issues and whatnot, but it's still cool. And so he said the thing we need to look at is there's a cutout in here. Marvel at this time was like advocating that the kids would join, probably a Stan Lee thing, Marvel something or other army or whatever. Cut out this coupon, send it in, and we'll send you some free certificate that you're
For the
awesome.
kids.
For the kids.
For the kids.
Yeah. So he's carefully turning the pages. He's got it down on the desk. He's turning, and he gets to the page. It's about middle of the book or so. And he's like, it's here. It's not cut out. So he said, that's great. And he went through the rest of it. And so someone had just dropped this in the chute at the East Greenbush Library. Didn't say anything, didn't claim anything. It was just in there with who knows what else, Lee Child, Jack Reacher books, and all the other garbage that people donate, and it just dropped it in, and it didn't take damage, fortunately. So it landed the right way. It must have landed flat on other stuff. Any other books that fell on top of it didn't do harm to it. And so he said, yeah, this book is he said, and based on my experience, he said, although I don't grade, he said, I'd say it's probably a 6.5, so it's probably worth anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 easily. And they were like, oh, and he went on eBay and he said, here's some sold, he went and he looked up sold. He goes, here's one that sold yesterday that actually was not as good as this. And it was listed at 3, and it sold for like 2,700. So it was just like super, super cool. It was just really cool to be there. It was just so random to
That's
I
like
haven't
in
been
the
there in a
presence
month.
of royalty.
Yeah.
Organicpricebooks.com. You want to use your coupon code Sheehan Comics. That's capital S, lowercase HEEHAN, capital, all capitals, comics, COMICS, Sheehan Comics, all together, $2 off your purchase, Organic Price Books.
Smash the
Yes.
like button.
Please let us know you like what you're hearing.
And if you like it, maybe we'll have like a giveaway, and you can go on vacation with Brian.
Yeah, you would eat good, I'll tell you that much. So, and speaking of reading, October 20th, the following week the episode will air. Scott and I are going to have Omar from Near Mint Condition on as a guest. Cannot wait to talk to the uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition.
But he's not Sheehan.
And he's not Sheehan. I don't think he is. Didn't you go to school with Sheehan? You went to school with Sheehan.
I think I did go to school with a Sheehan. I don't think it was the Sheehan. It may have been like a Sheehan cousin, like a distant relative. I think they were estranged. The Sheehan is dead.
This one. Let's talk about this for a moment.
Yeah.
So
is that Darkseid?
You know what? That is a great guess. It's actually Mongol. Mongol very much looks like Darkseid.
He kind of
so
does.
This is like the other Mongol.
Okay.
So he does. He basically is, okay, the way he looks. That's actually, see, he even looks like him.
Oh dear. Yeah, he does.
Right?
Yeah.
Striking resemblance. So Scott and I are talking about the death and return of Superman and such. If you go back and listen to episode 1, I followed that like religiously, okay? Then the Bendis era came out a couple of years ago. Brian Michael Bendis wrote Superman. Very divisive. I actually enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. But even more than that, not since the death of Superman have I really followed and been excited for a story like Philip Kennedy Johnson. I had no idea who Philip Kennedy Johnson was before. I kept seeing, Philip Kennedy Johnson, his Superman run. Oh, you got to read it. Blah, 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 on Twitter. I'm like, all right, fine. So he writes this. To me, it was an innocuous, thin trade paperback of his first few issues. Very good. Then the second one came out. Wow, very good. And it's all about Warworld. And it's basically Superman learning of slaves from Mongol's homeworld and then going off, assembling a crew of the Authority, which is another, a B team super group, not very well known. They were kind of big in the 90s. Group, and going to where Mongols home planet to free these slaves. Very compelling, excellent story. The art is very good as well. I'm like a quarter of the way through it, but I mean the art is really good. As you can see here, again, it does look like Darkseid, right? The way how big he is. But this is the culmination, because in the first two, that's when you kind of find out about about Mongol, and then in the second one, you find out even more about Mongol and these slaves that he's holding, and then like Superman just has enough, and he's like, these people really need help, so he takes this crew, and they go to the home planet of Mongol. And the art is fantastic. But Philip Kennedy Johnson, this story is so good. I think really I was emotionally touched by this story like I haven't been touched since the Death and Return of Superman. So
Wow.
kudos to Philip Kennedy Johnson. And then this one just released, like I think last week or the week before. This one just came out. This is the follow-up. So the first trade paperback was, I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 issues. Same with the second. And then this is like a nice thick one.
Yeah.
So this collects Action Comics 1036 through 1042. Give this a read. Good. So good. Tequila.
Pee-wee is not Sheehan.
Oh, yeah. It's my new Batman shirt.
Nice. Nice. Vintage Batman. Adam West Batman.
Yeah, look. But
right.
I think Pee Wee Herman could be a Sheehan, though.
We'll have to look into that further. Could be something to that.
You know?
So smash the like button.
Darth Pillow, you better tell all of your friends.
I mean, he doesn't do Todd McFarlane.
No, but I'm going to be the king of all media. I'm going to have sworn out to be the number one movie, the number one comic. Howard Stern is not going to have that on all